This is Semiconductor-Insight.
There was a time when Japan was the undisputed king of semiconductors. Now? Well, now it's making this absolutely colossal, high-stakes bet to reclaim its glory in what is probably the world's most critical industry. We're talking about a company called Rapidus, and this is a national gamble of epic proportions. And to really get a handle on just how big this gamble is, we have to start with one single, just staggering number. 7 trillion yen. Let that sink in for a second. That's the estimated total investment needed to make this dream a reality. I mean, that is a figure so vast, it completely redefines what a national project even means. And really, it all comes down to this one huge question. Can a fallen tech giant actually make the ultimate comeback? I mean, after decades of falling behind, can Japan really leapfrog the competition and plant its flag back on the bleeding edge of technology? That's the story we're going to dig into. So, you've got to be asking, why this massive push and why right now? Well, to really get the urgency behind Rapidus, we have to take a step back and look at Japan's incredible journey, from being on top of the world to, frankly, a position of really dangerous dependence. Okay, so this chart right here, it tells the whole story. It's just so stark. Back in the 80s, you see that? Japan controlled more than half of the entire global semiconductor market. They were an absolute powerhouse. Now, fast forward to today, and that share has just plummeted to less than 10%. Look, this isn't just a decline. This is a free fall, a near total collapse from the top. In a fall like that, well, it creates a massive vulnerability. It's something we hear about all the time now, geopolitical risk. It sounds complicated, but it's actually pretty simple. It's the fear that some conflict, some political crisis somewhere else in the world could suddenly just turn off the tap, cut off the supply of something your entire economy needs to survive. And for Japan, that something is advanced computer chips. And this slide really shows you the modern chokehold we're all in. The world's most sophisticated chips. We're talking the brains behind AI, self-driving cars, all the cutting-edge military tech. They're overwhelmingly made by just one company, TSMC, in one place, Taiwan. So think about it. A crisis there could instantly paralyze the entire global economy. And for a country like Japan, a nation that prides itself on manufacturing, not having your own source for these critical components, well, it's just an unacceptable risk to your economic security. It's that simple. So, faced with this scary reality, Japan's big answer is Rapidus. But here's the clever part. They aren't trying to go head-to-head with the giants. Not at all. Instead, they've cooked up this really smart game plan, and it's all built on two key ideas: speed and specialization. This table really lays it out. You've got two totally different ways of doing things. On one side, you've got the TSMC model. Think of it like a giant factory for a blockbuster product. Massive facilities churning out millions of identical chips for huge clients like Apple. It's all about scale and cost. But Rapidus? They're going the other way entirely. They want to be a boutique or a custom shop. They're focused on small, varied batches of specialized chips for clients who need flexibility. And, most importantly, they need them fast. So how are they going to pull this off? Well, their whole plan rests on these three pillars. First, they're not trying to reinvent the wheel. They're partnering up with IBM to license its totally groundbreaking 2-nanometer chip design. So they're starting with a world-class blueprint. Second, they are building fast, I mean lightning fast. They're putting up this mega factory called Imun in Hokkaido, a place they chose specifically for its abundant water and power. And third, they're targeting the niches. They're going after the companies working on the next big thing in AI or cars, the ones who just can't afford to wait in TSMC's super long line and need custom chips like yesterday. Now, as ambitious as this all sounds, the skepticism out there is just as massive. A lot of industry insiders are looking at this and saying, no way, this is an impossible challenge. And they have some pretty good reasons for thinking that. And here's problem number one. They're starting the race a lap behind. Just look at this timeline. The industry leader, TSMC, they're on track to start mass producing these 2-nanometer chips in 2025. Rapidus, they're aiming for 2027. In the ridiculously fast-moving world of semiconductors, 2 years? That's an eternity. They run the very real risk of finally getting to market when the technology isn't even the newest thing anymore. This quote from an industry insider, man, it just perfectly captures the skepticism. It's like an excellent motorcycle maker suddenly trying to build a Formula One supercar. And that's the thing, right? Japan still has fantastic component makers, no doubt about it. But they've been out of the cutting-edge chip manufacturing race for so long. So the leap they're trying to make, it just seems impossibly huge to a lot of people. So all this skepticism really boils down to 3 towering hurdles. First, you've got fierce competition. You're walking into a market dominated by TSMC and Samsung, who have decades of a head start. Second, there's that massive funding gap. We're talking 7 trillion yen needed, and they're not there yet, which raises huge questions about long-term financial viability. And third, and this might be the biggest one, the lack of recent technical experience. Look, IBM can hand you the design, the blueprint, but actually making millions of perfectly working chips, that's called high-yield manufacturing, and it's an art form that Japan has frankly lost and needs to relearn from scratch. So with hurdles that big, you're probably thinking, why should anyone believe this time will be any different from Japan's other failed national projects? Well, the answer, and it's a fascinating one, lies in the unique way they've structured the alliance behind Rapidus. This quote from the chairman of Rapidus, Tetsuro Higashi, really gets to the heart of it. He says, "We will pioneer customers that Samsung or TSMC do not accept." See, they're not trying to steal Apple away from TSMC. They're not playing that game. They are deliberately targeting a completely different slice of the market, those smaller, innovative companies with custom orders that the giants are often just too big and too busy to really serve well. And just look at who's backing this strategy. The original 8 investors who kicked this off in 2022, it wasn't just a bunch of banks and tech firms. It included their own future customers, like Toyota, the car giant, and the Sony Group, a leader in imaging sensors. So this wasn't just an investment. This was the creation of a whole strategic ecosystem right from day one. And that ecosystem, it's growing fast. Those original 8 have now been joined by over 20 more of Japan's top companies. The total is now over 30. We're talking about a true all-Japan effort here. You've got material suppliers, equipment makers, banks, and yeah, even more future customers, all jumping on board. It's an incredibly powerful display of national industrial unity. And this is the key difference. This whole setup is designed to avoid a classic Japanese pitfall, something they call Galapagos syndrome. It's this idea where brilliant technology gets developed in a bubble, totally isolated, and then you find out there's no global market for it. But by having companies like Toyota and Sony as investors, Rapidus makes sure the customer is in the room from the very beginning, helping them build a product that they've already committed to buying. It's this unique kind of industrial policy, a whole consortium of giants, guided by the government, that's really distinctly Japanese. It's a huge contrast to the purely private sector approach you see in the West. Which brings us to our final section, the final gamble, redefining the win. Because as we get to the end here, it becomes really clear that this project is about so much more than just profit and loss. It's really about redefining what it even means to win in the 21st century technology race. So that begs the question, right? What does winning actually look like for Rapidus? Is the goal really to overtake TSMC and become number 1 in the world? Is that even the point? And the real answer seems to be no. Success here isn't about market share. It's about achieving something called technological sovereignty. It's about Japan having the ability to make the most critical components for its own key industries, right there on its own soil. The ultimate win isn't about being number 1. It's about breaking its dependence on a fragile global supply chain and finally securing its own economic future. So that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. When you look at the absolutely massive investment and you look at the really strategic goals, you have to ask yourself, is Japan just trying to build another semiconductor company? Or is this 7 trillion yen gamble really an attempt to build something much, much bigger? Maybe an alternative, a new option, and maybe, just maybe, a more resilient future for the entire global technology supply chain.
This has been Semiconductor Insight. Thank you